Welcome to Praying for Superpowers.
A podcast about the deeper meanings, messages, and intricacies hidden within the culture. I am your host, Peter Jordan.
And I am Trevor Sharon. Today we're talking about zombies.
Zombie. What? Brain.
Please. We'll probably do it. The zombie, vampire, undead, werewolf, Halloween concept.
Anything Van Helsing would hunt.
Anything Van Helsing would hunt has grown in such popularity over the past 50 years or so. It's crazy.
I love it. I love Halloween. I love this time of year. I love dressing up. I'm wearing my my Renaissance Festival / Halloween costume right now, and I love the culture behind all of it.
Yeah.
And I do like zombie movies.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel back in the 90s. Nowadays, though, it's a little more, and it's almost too much for me.
Like The Walking Dead. It's a little bit more gory, a little bit more creepy.
Yeah, it's darker. It's definitely darker.
And seems more realistic, too. I think that's a big aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of the effects in older vampire movies and zombie movies, like Nosferatu, disintegrating in the sunlight, they literally just like faded him out, and so it's like he's just like slowly disappearing, and things like that. Like it's comical almost.
Yeah.
You get to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and like then the Blade trilogy.
Yep.
And it's better,
but still very cheesy.
Still cheesy. Too much comic book.
Yeah.
And now it's too real. I watched the first 2 seasons of The Walking Dead, and I can't do any more. I wanted to know what happened. Luckily, the internet spoils everything if you go to the right place. So I know the storyline. I know which characters die and stuff like that. So
and that's the thing that I have had trouble getting back into The Walking Dead. Just with my masters and everything, I've been so busy that finding a show is hard. It has to be something mindless that I don't need to pay attention.
Like you can watch like a zombie.
Yeah, exactly. Something I can watch like a zombie. We'll get into that in a minute. But The Walking Dead does a really good job of making you very suspenseful about like who is going to survive. Mm-hmm. And they have the guts to kill off some characters that you're like, surely they won't kill that off.
Right. They wouldn't do that. No one kills pregnant people in movies.
Nobody kills one of the top 3 actors in the show.
Yeah.
And yet they do. And I love that. I love the trend that we've seen of having the guts to do things that we normally wouldn't see. Like in Rogue One. The ending of that was really cool to me just because they were able to do it. And I won't spoil that because I'm sure there are some people who haven't seen it.
I mean, and this is just our whole culture. I'm very tired of the reincarnation, resurrection trope used in comic books and movies, where they just bring a character back somehow after they die.
Unless they come back as a zombie.
Right. Coming back as a zombie. Oh, I remember my favorite comic book.
Oh,
that I couldn't remember in a previous recording. It's the White Lantern Corps.
Oh yeah.
It's about the fall of all of the superheroes come back as zombies, and it's awesome because it's zombie superheroes versus superheroes, and it's really cool, and I love it.
There's a fascination with, and I think it's probably I can get into the counseling side of our death anxiety and being able to see that incarnate, but really zombies, to my understanding, there's some concept that it came from ancient tribes where there were certain people that were lobotomized by some poison or something and buried and brought back.
Yeah.
But ultimately, zombies are kind of a representation of capitalism and mindlessly following the leader. Just doing the normal things because that's normal to do.
Right.
not having a mind of our own.
Just kind of almost going with your animal instincts.
Yeah.
There's a complete loss of soul, kind of as C.S. Lewis puts it. You don't have that guiding force inside of you.
Right.
And so you're an animal.
Yep. You have the commercial that comes on the TV and you buy the thing because you saw it and no other reason.
Right.
Blind consumerism, which I think is kind of cool. And we've definitely wandered past that, where zombies are less of a representation of something and more of people are going to watch this because zombies.
Right. And you can look up political cartoons from 100 years ago.
Yeah.
From England, showing people as zombies.
Yep.
Following following the leaders of different European countries, especially during Hitler's rise. There are lots of artists who drew the Nazi party as zombies following a leader.
Yeah, which is how we came with Nazi zombies.
Right. Which is so fun that became a thing.
Oh, yeah. I also really, with vampirism, that came from an illness that came from a lot of inbreeding in royal societies. And what would happen was, from this illness, their skin would crack if they were in direct sunlight, and it would start bleeding. And with that, their gums receded, so their canines seemed to be extruding further than normal. And during this time, medical knowledge was really awful.
Yeah. Well, you've got ghosts in your blood. Better do cocaine to get rid of them.
Right. Or, hey, you've got a blood illness. Let's just bleed you out with leeches.
Right. If we get rid of the blood, the sickness will go away.
Right. Obviously. And so what they would do with these individuals with this illness was they would feed them blood. And so that's kind of one of the bases for vampirism. That and Vlad the Impaler, who was...
Look him up on your own.
Man.
Viewer discretion advised. Listener discretion advised.
Yeah. Dracula in real life.
Right.
I would wager worse.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see where some of these supernatural beings come from in real history, and how they've been used throughout our storytelling.
Right. And I mean, and going into werewolves.
Yeah.
We can fact check this later. I don't know the name of the disorder, disease, what have you. Where you grow facial hair all over your face, arms, legs, every part of your body is covered in hair. And so you look like the old school Teen Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's based on, is people that have that disorder.
Yeah.
The dog-faced boy in, P.T. Barnum's Circus had that disorder. And so it's a real thing that then becomes monsterized, demonized.
Yeah. And I think this is a good opportunity to bring up somebody that I really enjoyed until I learned more about him. And that is H.P. Lovecraft. Because he is synonymous with this scary mythos, Cthulhu, just very scary Halloween stuff that is genuinely so much fun to read about and to explore. It's just really good.
It's terrifying.
Mythos, it's terrifying, really well written and intense. The thing that really bothers me is how racist H.P. Lovecraft was.
Oh, that's not what I thought you were going to say.
No.
That's a problem.
The thing is, most of his stories, I'm going to say it in terms that talk to both things. All of his stories have a common plot line. Man notices that aliens, immigrants from other planets or other worlds, are invading his world, and that they are disgusting and terrible creatures that have no place in this world of his, and therefore must be rid of them, because if they are allowed to be accepted into culture, it will destroy the minds of the native Earth people. And so it's really hard to enjoy that after learning about it, and I hope that I didn't ruin that for anybody. I think it's important to talk about.
Yeah.
And I still do genuinely love the stories. It's just I think we see some of that racism, that biasism in Halloween stuff that is highly inappropriate. I mean, we talk about the Indian costumes and
Right.
all of these costumes that are like, okay, really, we should be past
Well,
this.
and even a year or two ago, whenever Moana came out,
Yeah.
they made an outfit that was a bodysuit of Maui's tattoos.
Yeah.
And that was like, I mean, they immediately took it down like a day later because
Right.
it was like blackface.
Yeah.
Like you're putting on a dark-skinned suit that makes you look like you have darker skin with tattoos on it from a culture, the Maori culture. Like, I mean, it was very offensive. And I think it's easy to be like, it's a character, but it's like,
yeah.
But that was offensive.
The cultural appropriation of all of it is, I mean, it's just something to be aware of in the midst of this, and especially since we're digging into the deeper meanings of nerd culture.
Yeah.
To be able to see the Lovecraftian horror from that lens, and then be able to do it in a way that's still true to us. Because I love playing the
Call of
Cthulhu. Like I think it's a really fun system, and I'll
Yeah.
still play it, even knowing it. But it does interact with how I play with it.
Right. I mean, I thought something, when you were talking about H.P. Lovecraft, I thought what you were going to say is that by the end of his life, he believed everything he'd written was real.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I wrote a paper on him in high school. So it was a long time ago. Pretty sure it's true. I might have made it up. But pretty positive
Yeah.
that by the end of his life, he did believe Cthulhu was real and living in the middle of our earth.
Which is intense.
Right. And so, like, to write something and then later decide it's true speaks to a type of psychoses that is beyond my understanding. Insane.
And insanity is a super fun trope to play on around Halloween.
It is.
It is fun. We talk about
The Joker and Harley Quinn.
Oh man. Yeah. Or Solomon Grundy. One of the best zombies
Yes.
to be in comic book lore. He is so much fun.
Do you know the rhyme?
I think I could probably recall it. Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday.
Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday.
Died on a Tuesday.
No.
No,
Hung on a Tuesday, died on a Wednesday, buried on Thursday, risen on Friday, Solomon Grundy, killed on Saturday. Something. I know I messed it up in there. But he's hung for more than a day before he dies.
Right.
And that's like a big part of his character. He can't die. He's a zombie wearing a suit.
Yep.
Which is I've always loved.
And I really like this whenever we have a villain. You know, this is coming from my D&D DMing. Whenever I have a villain that's really hard to kill, or can't be killed in the normal ways, or has to be killed in a specific way, it adds so much to the challenge and the thrill of it. We see this with Voldemort. We see this with what's the character in the Wax and Wayne Alloy of Law?
Miles 100 Lives.
Miles 100 Lives.
Who is, quick aside, hands down my favorite villain in any book.
And I think that's partially because you can't just kill him. You can't just shoot him and he'll die. There has to be a specific way that this person dies. And we see that with vampires and werewolves and zombies.
Stakes through the heart and silver and fire.
Taking off their heads.
Right.
And I think that adds so much challenge that is really fun as a reader, as a daydreamer for movies, because it adds this fear that is fun. Because at the same time that we're experiencing an adrenaline rush, our bodies are literally preparing when we're watching horror movies to be cut in half. Like that's what's happening. Because our bodies don't really know the difference between what's real and what's on cinema. And so we can get to this point where we're releasing endorphins and dopamine and adrenaline and feeling this high of fear.
Until we're desensitized.
We're desensitized from it. And so having this situation where I just killed you, you should not be alive and chasing me again. I thought that I had had a moment of peace. And now you're back because you're a vampire and I didn't stab you in the heart.
Right, which I love that Christopher Paolini works into his series when he has he has soldiers that can't feel pain.
Oh, yeah.
That are like, that's probably my favorite couple chapters of Roran's story in that storyline. You know, he cuts them down and he turns around and there they are fighting him again because they can't feel their pain, so they're not actually dying.
Right.
And so, like, Yeah, it does. You're right. It's very interesting. It kind of changes the way you think about the whole storyline and getting your blood pumping. And part of that's not really something I enjoy.
Yeah.
Every now and then I will enjoy a good thriller movie. I don't like jump scares because I get pretty jump scared. But like I Am Legend, I do love that movie.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I love it is the unkillable but very killable side of these zombie vampires.
Yep.
Because they're not zombies, because they're alive and can be saved, because he's trying to cure them, and they burn in sunlight. But they're mindless and have gray skin. So they're like zombie vampires. And I love that. It's just brilliant. Personal. Love the writing of that. But I can't speak to loving horror movies.
Sure.
Zombie movies. I mean, The Walking Dead season 2 is like the tamest season. It's the most relaxing season. Relaxing. Just let me pop down and kick my feet up and watch all these people and watch Walking Dead. No, it's the least gory and horrifying season. Sure. It's still too much for me.
Yeah.
And so to think of these moments in literature and in movies and games where it is an unkillable monster or a specific killable monster, it changes. You have to change how you think, and that's what I love.
Yeah.
Especially, and when you're watching these movies that change the rules, you have to change how you watch them. Yeah. If you're actively watching. If you're watching like a zombie, you just keep watching. But right. I always try to figure out where the story's going.
Yeah.
And in a lot of movies and shows with these unkillable creatures, you're like, oh man, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
How are they going to handle this? And I love that.
One trope that I really enjoy that I think the Resident Evil series does really well is zombies aren't the real monster. Mm-hmm. And I think I love that. And I know that Stranger Things did a little bit of this too, where the monster you're shown is not actually the biggest, baddest monster. It always ends up being a person. Mm-hmm. And I like when our stories can turn a mirror on ourselves and say, you know what, you think that this is so extreme and so out there and that these zombies are alive and the T9 virus and all, just a mess of things. But really what's happening is that these are people who have been given too much power and no restrictions. Mm-hmm. And they've caused this and this to happen for their own gain. And I really like it because it allows us to think like, okay, if I was in this situation, what am I doing in my life right now that could be the big monster? And I think we all have monsters in us. We all have something in us that is monstrous. Mm-hmm. Whether it is the zombie who's more passive and just doing apathy, or it's the vampire who is sucking the life out of the people around us and taking away from the enjoyment of others.
Or the person who just flips a switch and goes from calm to furious, like a werewolf.
Totally.
And I think that, for me, that side of it is probably the hardest side.
Yeah.
You know, moving past gore and jump scares and horror, the self-assessment after those movies and shows, especially I'm like watching human characters become the worst. Like that's something constant in The Walking Dead. Well, the zombies will kill you. All of the other humans, though, are going to treat you way worse.
Yeah, you will wish that you had been killed by a zombie.
Instead of whatever happens to you. And that, for me, that's the hardest part, is to confront your inner demons and be like, man, what would I be like if this happened? What am I like now? Am I that angry person suddenly?
Yeah.
You know, what are the problems?
Yeah. We hope that you take this opportunity to reflect a little bit and see how, you know, I mean, we might throw out a test on our blog today that you can go through and see, are you a zombie, a vampire, a werewolf, or whatnot, by what you've done. Take it, see what you think. Let us know what your thoughts are. And join us this Friday for another World Singers episode.
Yeah, about Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell, which, as we said in our previous podcast, is my favorite title of any of Brandon Sanderson's books. I'm going to say it again. Just listen. Shadows for silence in the forests of hell. Be ready to be creeped out.
We'll catch you next time.
We will catch you.
Like a fox. I have a couple fact checks.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, so fact check. The rhyme of Solomon Grundy is as follows. Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday, christened on Tuesday, married on Wednesday, took ill on Thursday, grew worse on Friday, died on Saturday, buried on Sunday. That was the end of Solomon Grundy.
I knew
There's
he got
also
married.
a longer version that gives more, like, this is what the weather was like on those days.
No, seriously.
Basic. I don't know. That's
We'll
how
post
I read
that.
It.
We'll post the long version online.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I can read it to you if you want. It's not that long.
Okay.
Do it.
Okay, here's the long version of Solomon Grundy. Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday, christened on a stark and stormy Tuesday, married on a gray and grisly Wednesday, took ill on a mild and mellow Thursday, grew worse on a bright and breezy Friday, died on a gray and glorious Saturday, buried on a baking, blistering Sunday. That was the end of Solomon Grundy.
What alliteration.
And I love that.
All
So I was totally
alliteration.
wrong. What I thought it was completely wrong. So
I also have more. So, fact check. The disease that follows, or I guess I should say, fact check. The disease that werewolfism stems from is called hypertrichosis. It's an abnormal amount of hair growth over the body.
Can you look up the vampirism disease?
I thought I did. It wasn't easy to... It's called porphyria.
Yep.
So vampirism stems from the disease called porphyria. I can't... I'm not a podcaster.
that's good.
Perfect.
Yeah, those are the only fact checks.
Awesome. Well, thank you, my beautiful wife, for
welcome.
giving us the fact checks.
We need them.
Yeah, we do.